All right, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. It is a beautiful morning here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am up and at it early out at my local nature preserve, getting in an hour or two of some hiking this morning. And I wanted to come on the podcast this week, kind of in a holding pattern here until I have my MRI arthrogram of my shoulder, until we get the results on that and figure out what we are going to do from there. There are a couple things I need to be very truthful about and letting you all know. Two things I've been thinking about really ever since the moment my shoulder came out on the trail in Maine, off of the CARLO COL trail on the Appalachian Trail. And it's just two things that have really been resonating in my brain. And one of those things goes along with a lot of your comments over the last couple episodes have been, wow, Jester, you really have a positive attitude about this, a positive outlook about this. Love your attitude about going forward with what's happened. And I think there's a reason for that. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is it's really a story of what I've been going through and the truth and the reality of the situation. And the reason I am so happy and so positive. And the second thing is that I've really been thinking about is where do we go from here with the podcast? So the first thing, it is a really truth and reality story. So you could always look back. Hindsight is always 2020. So looking back in preparation for the trip for Maine, I was really, let me take it a step back, even further back. During the years of 2006 to 2017, I really had a fire in my belly for the Appalachian Trail, to finish the Appalachian Trail, to be successful, to be out on the trail. And anything that was in my way, I just booted out of the way pretty much. So that first completion on July 9th, 2017 in Rangeley, Maine, is totally different than what I've been going through these last couple years, more specifically on completing the Appalachian Trail again. I 100% did not have that fire in my belly this year, really at all. And leading up to the couple weeks, getting the van ready, I just was not interested. And that should have been a sign to me, okay, let's step back. What are we doing? But I set it up for myself. I set up the trip in the 100-mile wilderness. I set up to have a hiking guide to go through the Mahoosics with me. And it's just like a candidate that never works out. They have a good resume. Everything looks good on paper. But what is the reality of the situation when that candidate shows up to work? So the reality of the situation, when I showed up to Maine, it's like all this anxiety comes. I remember telling Stephanie, listen, I just need to hurry up and get through these 2 days of getting through the Mahoosics, of getting through, that trail of bouldering and all the things that comes through going through the Mahoosics. And I listened to those episodes of me and the Shenandoahs where I was talking about headed back to Maine, part 1, 2, 3, here we go. Well, I was happy in the Shenandoahs. We were having a great time. And I think it's because there's just certain parts of trails that I really love. And there's just certain parts I don't want to do. I do not like bouldering. I don't want anything to do with bouldering. And there's just certain parts of Maine that go all the way, and Katahdin is like the ultimate, hardest day on the trail for everybody. Not your northbound through hiker because they have their legs, but it is a very monumental mountain. So you got to have your mind right. And I guess leading up to really the point I'm getting ready to tell you, when I stepped on the trail with Deborah to go up the CARLO COL trail, I had no fire in my belly that I wanted to do this. All I had was, all right, so we're going to spend the night out tonight, and then tomorrow we're going to go through the Mahoosuc Notch, or however that was going to go down. And then I was going to get out to Main 26 trail, and I was going to be done with that. Well, that's not the good attitude to have. So going up the CARLO COL trail, we were having a good time, as I've said before. And this is the part of the story that I've really only told Stephanie about. And it's really like a confession. So when I took those 5, 6, 7 steps on the AT, put my pole down, and my shoulder came out, and y'all, this is wild. There was a 5 or 10 second moment in my mind that was like, thank God. I'm out of here. I don't have to be on this terrain. Y'all, that is crazy. And the whole way down the CARLO COL trail, and Lucky Dime can attest to this, last year coming down the CARLO COL trail, I was happy. It's regular trail. You're not bouldering. And even though my shoulder was out and I had that intense pain, that seemed easier than going and continuing on the Appalachian Trail. I know y'all crazy, but sometimes we put ourselves in these situations and we got to have something slap us up the side of our head to get us out of it. And when we got back home and all the things that were going on with that, before my shoulder came out again, I was like, all right, I can rehab this thing and maybe I can make it back up to Maine by, July 19th and start my 100-mile wilderness trip. I had even emailed the outdoor venture company in Maine and said, look, I'm going to try to rehab this thing. I'm going to try to make it up there. And I just realized that was stupid. So I realized that was stupid even before it came out again. But even the thought process, I am questioning myself. What is it? Do I really need a second completion? Am I doing this just so I can have something to podcast about? Am I doing this because I don't like things dangling out? I like to be a completer. I'm a completist. I like to put check marks on things. And I'm not sure. So that is something that I am working through as we speak. Every day I come out on the trail. Why do I feel like I need to do this? And over the last couple days, I have been thinking, I think CARLO COL is my finish, my second AT finish. And am I going to accept that? Or am I going to feel like I have to go out and grind this out and do something I don't want to do when we could be traveling in the van, going out west, doing all the things that I really want to do? So every day I've been asking myself, today, would I choose to be on the AT, or would I choose to be doing some other hiking that I know I can do and I will enjoy. And every day, at the end of the day, the AT does not win because there are just future things that I want to do. And as I'm sitting at home this summer, another sign to me is I'm happy. I'm happy I'm not on the trail in Maine. I'm happy I'm not bouldering. I'm happy I'm not putting my body through that. I've already been through that. So here we are, folks. I don't even know if I can put a conclusion on the conversation I just had with you. I don't know if I need to not worry about the AT for a while, go out and enjoy, which is what I'm going to do. Maybe I come back after a break. And because what I don't want to do is pack up and go to Maine again and get up there and be like, oh my God, here we go. All this anxiety, all this other stuff. So that is where I'm at. I'm happy. I'm happy. That's why I have a positive attitude. And I think it's because I am not treating the AT like a job. The last thing I ever wanted to do was treat the AT like a job that I don't want to go to. So the last job I didn't want to go to, you guys know, 3 years ago, I switched schools and I've never been happier. But you got to take that footstep out of there to realize what's ahead of you. I don't want to get stuck in this AT stuff. I want to go to the AT because I have that fire in my belly and that burning. And right now I don't have a fire in my belly for it at all. I've got a fire in my belly for other things, other trips I want to go on, other accomplishments I want to do. That is why I am thinking and proposing that the CARLO COL trailhead is my finish. I have a picture of that sign as my backdrop on my phone. And every time I've looked at that signage of those pictures that I took, I get a peace and a happiness that comes over me. Y'all, who gets happy that they get an injury so they don't have to complete and finish what they started out to do? What's that tell you? That tells you get out of there, reassess, reevaluate, and sit in what you need to figure out and move forward. So that is how I'm happy right now. That is how I'm moving forward. And I don't know what's going to happen, but for now, the CARLO COL trailhead is the finale as far as the AT goes. And all I can say is, for now, until I work through this and really work out what I want to do. So that is the part one. The part two is the podcast. I have been trying to figure out what the podcast is, where I go forward with it, or even if I do go forward with it. So in 2019, when I started the podcast, I was interviewing people. My first episode was Kevin Cyrus, Purple Pilgrim. He was the kid, or the one, when I was a kid, that motivated me to go out and want to complete the Appalachian Trail in the first place. And I've interviewed all kinds of people. We've talked about cancer. We've talked about suicide. We've talked about how the trail has saved people's lives by giving them a purpose, and not just the AT, all types of trails. This podcast was how I started having a relationship with the Mountains of Sea Trail, how I started having a relationship with the Allegheny Trail, how Austin and I started our business, Jester Wallace Productions. And this podcast has led to many, many things in my life. Many of you that I connect with now, we have conversations that I wouldn't have known unless I was doing this podcast. But we are in the middle of year 7, and December we'll be moving on to year 8. And the last couple of years, this podcast has really turned into my journey on a second attempt of completing the Appalachian Trail as a section hiker. And I'm not sure I can promise that going forward. And this podcast has a very specific name, Jester Section Hiker. But moving forward, I may not be section hiking trails. I might be doing a bunch of day hikes somewhere. I might be going and spending time in our national parks, local parks, different things. Who knows? The question is, do you all want to hear that stuff, or does the podcast just kind of fizzle out because I'm not talking about section hiking anymore? Just because I don't do the podcast doesn't mean I may not do content in another area. I have a YouTube channel. There are some different things that I've been wanting to learn and create. And I've kind of got this question mark around the podcast because I really don't know what to do with it. It really has turned into like an audio journal for me. Do you all want to hear me babble on about different adventures I'm on? Or do you come to this podcast for the section hiking? So that is a question for you all, and I would really love to hear or read your answers. So if you've been listening to this podcast a long time, or even if you just started, what did you come here for? What are you trying to get out of this? Have you been educated? Have you been inspired? And why do you keep listening is really what I'd like to hear. And I'd like y'all to send me an email, jester@jestersectionhiker.com. And if nobody emails me, then I'll have my answer. All right, nobody wants to hear this mess anymore. So anyway, basically this episode is kind of like where do we go from here? I know 99% probably I'm going to end up having shoulder surgery. I know I'm going to be going back to work in August. And when work starts, in addition to teaching, I have another opportunity with a local community college that I am also going to be doing. So I know when school starts again in August, I'm not going to be podcasting on a weekly basis, probably not on a monthly basis. And that goes back to the question, will you keep listening if I pop up sporadically? Is it time to let Jester Section Hiker just sit there, and when I go out and do other adventures, just put them out on the YouTube channel? So that is where I'm at. I no longer have that deep fire in my belly for the Appalachian Trail, and I'm not sure what to do with the podcast. Those are the two things. I would really like your feedback in an email format. So if you would email me, jester@jestersectionhiker.com. Jester, get rid of it all. We don't want to hear from you anymore. Jester, this is why we enjoy your show. Whatever. I just want some feedback. I don't want it on social media. I want it directly so I could really read and contemplate and kind of see what the audience wants. So if y'all would do that for me, that would be awesome. Anyway, it continues to be a beautiful morning here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Those are the two things that I'm really thinking about in this holding pattern here until I have my MRI arthrogram and figure out what's going on with surgery. And of course, I will come back and fill you in on all of that and what is happening, and fill you all in on any feedback I get, if any at all. So I'm going to continue my walk. I hope you all get out there, and whatever you're doing, I hope you have that fire in your belly to make it happen. So as always, thanks for listening. Be safe out there, and happy section hiking. All right, y'all. This is a little add-on. I am actually in the truck headed back home. Had a wonderful walk, and this is kind of my thought process and what happened after I got done recording the episode. I was listening to a sermon by Pastor Rich Wilkerson. He pastors a church in Miami, Florida called VOUS Church, VOUS Church. And the message was basically when you find joy in pain, or when you experience joy in suffering. And ironically enough, I just told you all the story of how I had a moment up on the trail where I was happy in the pain. And I honestly think, and this is something I'm going to ponder on as well, that my joy in the suffering is what got me back down that trail, 3 miles, the CARLO COL trail, back down that crazy road, all the bumps and everything, that my joy that I was not on the trail overtook the pain of my suffering. And this is something that I have never felt before. And y'all, it is amazing. So just wanted to add that on to the end of this episode to kind of go along with my first point in why I'm happy being off trail and why I have a positive attitude. All right, y'all.